Okay, there's been a lot going on lately. Obviously, what with the fire and everything, we finally kind of got settled, got sorted. Things are beginning to finally kind of settle down and organised, and yeah, I think we're finally kind of, you know, chilling and finally in a place where we can just sort of relax a bit. So much happened all in one time. It's kind of stressful. Anyway, I got into a bit of a debate a little while ago with this guy on Facebook. Now, where I got accused of being a feminist. Now, generally comments like that just do not bother me, but this has been a subject that's kind of bothered me a little bit anyway, especially over the last 10 years when the term feminist has really been taken out of proportion and completely overused, and in the wrong context, completely the wrong context, because they throw the word around as if it means something, or as if it matters anymore. And the reality is, feminism has been over for a long time. We won that battle years ago. And it's a ridiculous notion to be able to take something like that and make it social. And to try and use such a term and try and make it sound like you're insulting somebody is quite funny. I mean, this guy, he sexualised women. Turned around and said that unless we're virgins when we marry, then we're not only is it shameful for men to be with them, but we're an embarrassment to everybody. How dare we have that kind of experience outside? Oh my days, how dare we not be virgins? You know, but when I turned it around and stated that unless men remained virgins until they married, because if they didn't, that would be just as shameful for us to be with a man who wasn't a virgin, and just as embarrassing. I was accused of being a feminist, and it was actually, it was funny as. It's the funniest thing I've ever done. It was hilarious. I was accused of sexualising men after they'd just completely sexualised women in every respect. And it was like, okay, whatever. But it did remind me that feminism has been taken so completely out of context that they're throwing the word around as if it means something, and as if it was some kind of social term, as if it was as if and it's not, because over the last 10 years or so, feminism has become such a social interaction and has such a negative connotation that people have lost the real meaning of it. Back at the beginning or the end of the 1800s, end of the 19th century, and into the beginning of the 20th century, when women were working, not only were they working, some women had some very prominent jobs. They could become doctors and nurses, they could work in all sorts of fields, and they gained great respect in those fields. They could do whatever they wanted almost. They could not work in the military, they couldn't work in the police, but they could work in a lot of different fields and gained a lot of respect from men in general. In society as a whole, women gained a lot of respect. Men respected women back in the 1800s, and although it seems very strange and a very odd concept, men and women were equal in society. We all had different jobs to do, we all knew our places, and yes, we know for a fact that no matter where we go in history, and even back as far as like 6 months ago, or yesterday, or today, you will always find people that have these views about human beings, that we should be, beneath others, and we should tread on each other, It doesn't matter where you are in the world, there will always be people like that who think that they can tread on somebody else just because they're bullies and that's how they live. But as a whole in society, everybody respected everybody else's roles. Yes, it was a societal thing. We were respected by men, men were respected by us. We understood that men were the providers, we were the homemakers. We had our jobs to do, they had their jobs to do. And within the homes and within our roles, we understood each other. And you actually found that within the home environment, more women were in control than men. Outside of that home environment, the men were in control. And it goes that way throughout all eternity, because the reality is, if you actually look back, you'll find that men were afraid of women because, their mothers, their grandmothers, that you find there were very prominent women in their lives, and they would have taught them, they would have learnt by them. So they would have learnt to respect women because they were raised by women. And again, this wouldn't have been every single one, because obviously there are hideous people out there, and there will always be hideous people out there, even to this day, right here today. There is going to be hideous people out there. Doesn't matter who you are, where you are, what you do. There will always be hideous people that do hideous, horrible things and behave in the worst ways possible. Okay, so don't even go there. But as a whole, we were all respected by everybody, because that is how society works. And when you get to the 1800s and women actually were able to go out and actually get work in the fields and earn their own money, and not just be homemakers, they were able to go to university, go to colleges, go to get qualifications of their own. There was this shift in society, and men became more respectful, and it was actually a really good thing. The problem we had was, although society respected women just as much as women respected men, there was equilibrium in society. When it came politically, however, the men in power, they hated the women going out to work. They hated the fact that women were working, earning their own money, getting independent, having this life, whatever else. It was the people in power that didn't want any of that. So what happened by the end of the 19th century, beginning of the 20th century, is women decided that enough was enough. And a political rally started. The suffragettes were political, they weren't societal. This feminist movement, the suffragettes, it was a political movement. It was because the men in power refused to allow women the equality through the law that men had. The equality they had in society, because society, they were all equal. It was the law that was stopping the equality, the law that refused to allow women to have equal pay, equal this, equal that, allow them to vote, allow them to do this, allow them to own homes, allow them to do all this. It was the law that was stopping that. That was a law that was stopping them from having everything men had and doing everything men could do. Not men. It wasn't society that was stopping it, it was the law. So it was the law that had to change. The suffragette movement was about changing the law. So feminism has never been societal. It's always been political. It started political and ended political. From the minute we got the right to vote to the minute we got the ability to have equal pay. And okay, so not everybody gets equal pay. We know that will always be a bone of contention somewhere along the line, but we have it, mostly. You know, there is this concept that there are laws out there that allow us to be equal. Feminism is political. It is not societal. So if somebody's out there calling you a feminist, it's a ridiculous notion. If you're a feminist, it means you're fighting a political battle for equality for women. It's not a societal thing where you're going, yes, women need to be equal, blah, 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 blah. We've always had it. It's always been there. We've always had that respect, just like men have always had that respect from us. Only now, since about 10 or so years ago, when women decided that men shouldn't be plunged under our feet, you know, there's been this shift that's been completely ridiculous and annoying. And now society, and now all of a sudden, after all those years, society now needs to regain what it lost. The equilibrium that it always had, even after women started working. Just need to re-find our places and our positions. But the respect has always been there. Feminism has always been political. It started political with the suffragettes and it ended political. It's like everything else. Can't be a feminist if there's no political reason to be feminist. You just can't. You know, you can't make something political, societal. No, you really can't. The political movement is over. We're done. Now we need to regain what we've lost through the ridiculous idiocies of our own imaginations. You know, we need to regain our own equilibrium. Men and women have to remind themselves that we've always been equal in society. We've always respected each other right the way through history. Always. We've always had a great respect for each other. And that is what we need to regain completely.